Hi there, reading buddies. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be reading the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack and his mother were very poor, and they lived on a farm. Sometimes they had to sell things in order to make extra money. Jack thought he was doing a good thing when he traded the family cow for some magic beans. Do you think that was a good decision? Let's see what happens, okay? Jack and the Beanstalk, story adopted by Alligator Publishing, London, England. There was once a poor widow who lived in a cottage with her son Jack. Jack's father had died many years before, leaving mother and son to tend the farm alone. Now, Jack was a happy lad, but he hated to work and was rather selfish. Jack's mother had to work that much harder because of her son's laziness. She often went hungry so that Jack might have a full tummy. Jack would have been very upset had he known this, because he actually had a good heart. But he simply didn't think about anyone other than himself. As times grew harder, Jack's mother struggled to earn money. She had to sell many of their belongings just to buy food. When she had parted with everything but her last cow, she said to Jack, "Oh, son, I must now sell our only cow to buy bread, and then we will have no milk to drink." The poor woman wept and wept. Jack was most upset at the sight of his mother's tears. He had made up his mind at once to do something to help her. "Let me take the cow to market," said Jack. "I'll get the best price ever for her." "All right," said his mother. "Make the best bargain you can." It was with great pride that she watched her son leading the cow to market. Jack had not gone far when he met a friendly farmer, and the two spoke of their troubles. The farmer was very kind to Jack and said that he would buy the cow. But as the farmer had no money with him, he offered Jack his magic beans instead. Jack took the beans, which fascinated him, and the farmer told Jack they would grow into wonderful plants that would make his fortune. The boy was pleased with himself for getting rid of the cow so quickly. He ran back to his mother with the beans, feeling sure she would be pleased to discover what a fine head he had for business. But Jack was mistaken. His mother had many plans for the money from the sale of the cow, and to have nothing but a handful of beans was a terrible disappointment. "Oh, Jack, what have you done?" she shouted. "Now we have no milk to drink and no money to buy food. How could you be so foolish?" She threw the beans out the window and sent her son to bed for the rest of the day. The next morning, when Jack awoke and went to the window, he had a great shock. Before him, he saw an enormous beanstalk growing at the side of his house. It was not like the usual beanstalks Jack had seen before. This one was all twisted and woven together, thick and strong like a tree, and the top was quite lost in the clouds. Jack looked up in amazement and decided he simply had to climb up that ladder of a beanstalk and see where it led. When Jack's mother discovered what he was up to, she ran outside and cried, "Oh, Jack, don't think of such a thing. You will surely fall and break your neck." But Jack did not listen to his mother, and away he went, racing up the beanstalk as fast as he could. At last, Jack reached the top. He peered through the top of the clouds. Jack found himself in a strange and beautiful land. He jumped off the top of the beanstalk, and before he could decide what to do next, a pretty young girl appeared next to him. "Hello there. "I'm a fairy," said the little girl, "and I've been expecting you. Over there is the castle where the giant lives." Clearly the fairy had a lot to tell Jack, and the young boy listened eagerly. "When you were a baby, it was the giant who killed your father and took all of his money. Your mother escaped with you in her arms and never mentions his name, for fear the giant would come for both of you. It is the giant's fault that you are so poor and your mother must work so hard. You must take back what is rightfully yours." Naturally, the boy was shocked and angered by what he had learned. He decided he had to carry on and find the giant. Jack went to the castle and knocked on the huge wooden door. The giant's wife, who was home alone, answered the door. Now, the giant's wife is also a giant, but she's a kind woman too. When she saw how hungry the boy looked, she took him in and gave him a hot meal. "But you must not stay too long," said the wife. "I'm afraid my husband is cruel and has a taste for roast boy." Jack was enjoying his food very much when the giant's wife suddenly announced, "Oh no, here he comes, my husband, up the path. What shall I do? If he sees you, he'll have you roasted for sure." She hid Jack in the kitchen cupboard. Moments later, there was a banging and stamping, and in came the giant. He was bigger than his giant of a wife, and rather scary looking, with warts all over his face and only a few teeth. His roaring voice was just as scary. "Fee, fi, fo, fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread," sang the giant. His voice sounded like the wind among the trees on a stormy day, or like the lions at feeding time, and he walked around the kitchen, sniffing and snuffing and peering and prying into all the places where he thought anyone might be hidden. Luckily, the giant's wife convinced him that he had made a mistake, and that it was his own dinner he could smell. The giant sat down at the table and ate a great deal, and drank a great deal. Jack carefully opened the cupboard door crack and watched the giant in amazement. When the giant had eaten his fill, he took 2 bags of gold out of his pocket and placed them on the table. The giant was so tired, he lay back in his chair and went to sleep. "Now," thought Jack, "now is my time." And he climbed out of the cupboard and crept up to the snoring giant. Slowly he reached for the bags of gold, tiptoed to the window, and jumped out. He ran as fast as he could to the beanstalk, and climbed down all the way without stopping. Jack's mother was delighted to see her son again, and she was very surprised and pleased to see all the gold. That night, Jack remembered something the giant's wife had told him. She talked of a wonderful goose that her husband had, a goose that laid golden eggs. Jack thought, if we had that goose, we should never be poor again. The giant has plenty of riches. He won't go hungry. So the next day, Jack climbed up the beanstalk again and returned to the castle. This time, no one was home at all, so he had no trouble finding the goose. Jack returned home safely, although the goose honked so loudly that he thought the giant must have heard wherever he might have been. Now, Jack was becoming very brave, and perhaps a little greedy. So the next day, he climbed up the beanstalk and went to the castle for a third time. He wanted the giant's magic harp, which the fairy had told him had belonged to his father. Jack grabbed the harp while the giant slept right next to it. But the harp began to play music accidentally, and the snoring giant woke up right away. The giant stumbled out of his chair and rushed after Jack with a club in his hand. Jack raced to the beanstalk and practically slid all the way down. As he reached the bottom, he felt the stalk begin to sway. Looking up, he saw the big, fierce giant racing down after him. There wasn't a moment to spare. Jack's mother saw what was happening and came running out of the cottage. She fetched an axe and gave it to Jack. The boy hacked away at the beanstalk and soon cut right through it. The beanstalk came tumbling down and the giant crashed into the ground. That, surely, was the end of him. Jack's mother examined the giant and recognized the evil man who had taken her husband and stolen her wealth. Now that their enemy was gone, Jack and his mother could live in peace and comfort. They often listened to the music of the music harp in memory of Jack's father. Over time, the stump of the beanstalk slowly withered away, so that Jack was not tempted to climb it again. He had had enough adventure with giants to last him a lifetime. From then on, Jack was a kind and helpful son and took care of his mother. The goose was very glad to be away from the angry old giant and was happy to be living with Jack and his mother. It laid enough golden eggs to keep them all in comfort for the rest of their days, and they all enjoyed a happy life in the cottage. Well, reading buddies, did you enjoy the story of Jack and the Beanstalk? Jack was pretty brave for climbing up that beanstalk. I don't know if I would have done it. There was a big old giant up there. Would you have done it? No, reading buddies, we'll see you next time. Bye! Uncle Emmitt's Story Time was brought to you by www.ababiesfirstshoes.com. Visit us on the web at www.ababiesfirstshoes.com. Thank you.